The last 15 years have seen the striker position in football change dramatically. From traditional number 9s, to Leo Messi's false 9, to machines like Erling Haaland, we have come full circle. So what has changed tactically to allow this to happen, and how have we ended up with guys like this? Our starting point is Barcelona 2009 and Kelsey Breeze. When we're talking about tactical innovation, we're talking about Pep Guardiola. And this is the team that won the 2009 Champions League final. And it's fair to say that this is a team that has played some of the most fabulous football that I have ever seen in my entire life. And it was obsessed with possession. This particular triangle here, Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta, was truly, truly magical. And okay, we've got a pretty traditional striker in Samuel Eto'o, but we're starting to see the emergence of the wide forward that cuts inside. Thierry Henry cutting onto his right from the left, and Leo Messi cutting in from the right onto his left foot. We've got Samuel Eto'o here as a more traditional number 9. He's able to drop in and link play. He's able to move to the sides. He's almost able to get into the box and score goals. At this point, we've still got a traditional 9, but the tide is starting to turn towards possession and positional play. We move on 1 year and Spain win the World Cup in 2010. And again, it's all about possession. We take a look at this midfield 3, Alonso, Xavi and Busquets, and of course Iniesta playing off that left wing almost creates like a second triangle. And Spain pretty much starve everyone to death. It's possession and possession and possession and passing and passing and yet more passing. And the important thing to note here is that we still have a pretty traditional looking striker in David Villa. He plays up front, he's brilliant, and Spain win the World Cup. Skip forward 1 more year, Barcelona win the Champions League once again in 2011. It's a crowning achievement, it's yet more glorious football, and lo and behold, the midfield 3 is the exact same. They're still playing amazing possession football, but there's a massive difference. Lionel Messi is now up front. He's come inside from the right wing, Pedro has taken his spot, and look at David Villa, recruited as one of the world's best number 9s by Pep Guardiola and put on the left-hand side. The striker role is about to change. Messi's role up front was more of a false 9. He didn't do the things that we expected a number 9 to do. He did not make any runs in behind defences. He did not occupy any defenders. He did not tussle with anybody. In fact, he did the complete opposite. He went back towards the ball. This allowed him to join in and create perhaps more like a diamond in midfield with Busquets, Iniesta and Xavi. And what it did was it attracted defenders and centre-backs up the pitch and made them follow him into these areas. That created space for players like David Villa and Pedro to run in behind and make use of that space. And they were prolific coming in off the edge of the attack, Messi joining the midfield, turning and playing them through. We hadn't really seen it before. We skip another year, Euro 2012, Spain win it and convincingly so. They beat Italy 4-0 in the final, and they do it with a false 9. David Villa is ruled out of the tournament due to injury, and rather than just play Fernando Torres, Spain decide to put Cesc Fabregas up front instead to try and simulate some of what Barcelona have been doing with Lionel Messi. So here's what it looks like on the pitch. You've got the triangle between Alonso, Xavi and Busquets, and then of course you can rope in Iniesta as well in those double triangles, and you've got Cesc Fabregas dropping towards the ball. Now this isn't so much about Silva and Iniesta breaking in behind. That wasn't really the goal here. The goal for Spain was actually just more possession, more possession. If the other team don't have the ball, then we can't concede. But it laid the foundations off the back of Messi for lots of teams to start copying this. They wanted to play possession football, and they wanted their striker to come towards the ball and do a lot more in possession than perhaps we'd really seen before. So this period is absolutely critical because it encourages strikers to get much more involved in build-up play and link-up play, and managers want to start to see that from their strikers much more. I'm going to show you some examples from around this period of some really good teams where strikers started to get really involved in build-up play to great effect. Let's start with Borussia Dortmund in 2013, one of my favourite sides. They lost the Champions League finals with Bayern, but at least got a couple of Bundesliga titles out of Jurgen Klopp at that time, and this was a really great side. It was Lewandowski's final year in black and yellow, and he was the all-round complete striker. Now the beauty of him was that he would play as a traditional number 9, make runs into the box, make runs off the strikers, he would occupy them, he would battle them, but he would also come over to the right-hand side very regularly and combine with the all-Polish right-hand side. Piszczek and Kuba, his national teammates, they had such a good relationship that Piszczek was able to come all the way up here, Kuba as well, and Lewandowski was frequently linking with them and letting them move beyond him. Now this was a real problem for centre-backs because it was drawing them out of position and they were overloading one side, and because of their natural chemistry, they were able to make great ground down that right-hand side. This naturally opens up areas for Mario Götze to get in here, and Marco Reus dropping in off the left-hand side was very effective too. Now we move on to Real Madrid in 2014. This is the team that won the Champions League final in extra time against Atletico Madrid. Always amuses me to see Fabio Quintrao as the starter at left back there. That's one for the history books. But the real focus here is up front, where Benzema has to change his game in order to allow Ronaldo and Bale to do their thing. These are two incredibly expensive players that they've signed to play wide forward, and they want to take the role of primary goal scorer. So the centre forward has to change what he does. And what Benzema does is he's really smart. He realises that for him to work in this system, he needs to facilitate and he needs to create. So he needs to be able to drop out of the attacking line. He needs to be able to drop towards the right-hand side to combine with Bale. He needs to move over to the left primarily to combine with Ronaldo, but he needs to create space. We go back to the old dynamic of David Villa and Pedro, where Ronaldo wants to come in here and Bale wants to come in here, and they're both moving towards goal on their strong foot and getting into these positions. Benzema kind of just has to get out of the way at a certain point, but also learn to facilitate and link and create that space. This is another step in the evolution of the striker, and Benzema is one of the best ever to do it. Final example here is Liverpool. Now, this started around 2015, 2016, when Roberto Firmino joined the club, but actually looking at some of those 11s, I actually don't think Liverpool fans would want to see them. So I've skipped ahead in time just a little bit towards 2018, 2019 to show it in its final form as Jurgen Klopp always intended. We've got echoes of Real Madrid here. We've got Mane and we've got Salah hell-bent on doing one single thing, which is getting into the box and shooting and moving in at this angle on their stronger foot. Again, Firmino needs to do a bit of a Benzema here and to a point just get out of the way. But it's even more important for him to become the creative focal point here, maybe from a bit of a midfield diamond, but also feed these passes in, because this isn't a particularly creative midfield. Jurgen Klopp built this midfield to counter-press and to win the ball and to give it to Firmino or give it to the fullbacks who are pushing up the pitch. So Firmino's back heels, his 360-degree visibility, his ability to feed Mane and Salah here is absolutely massive. He might be the best example at this stage of a genuine false nine. But there's an important juncture in time around this time. It's roughly 2015, 2016. We've forgotten about possession and we've started pressing. Everyone in the Premier League wants to press high. Everybody wants to follow suit because we've got Jurgen Klopp, got Liverpool cooking. Pep City are clicking, and Mauricio Pochettino has had a little bit of time with Spurs. We've got three top-level examples here at the very top of the most watched league in the world, and they're all pressing high. So naturally, as is often the case in football, everyone starts to copy them. What that looks like is this. Teams start pushing up the pitch. The strikers are engaging high, the wingers are following, naturally the midfielders follow, and the defensive line ends up parked on roughly the halfway line. All of these strikers that have got used to playing in roughly this kind of area struggle because the space is starting to erode. And if they can't play in that space, they have to find somewhere else. And you have to figure out where that space is. Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's in behind. The space has moved. It's gone to behind the defensive line. All of a sudden, the strikers that have learnt to come towards the ball, play, facilitate and link, now need to run the other way. They need to go back to the old school style of tussling with centre-backs, of running the channels and running in behind, because football ultimately is all about space. Where is the space? Find the space, play in the space. And the space has moved. So we reach a weird point in Premier League history now, which I call the Premier League vortex, and it's what Leicester City used to win the Premier League. Lots of teams are pushing up, parking their defensive lines on the halfway line and trying to press. But the thing is, they're doing it quite badly. And Jamie Vardy just runs in behind for an entire season and punishes teams and leads his team to a title. And it's astonishing how few teams adjust to this, recognise they're pressing badly, recognise that leaving space in behind them is dangerous against Jamie Vardy. It genuinely takes about 4 months. And by that point, the damage is done, Leicester's lead is secure, and they win the title. It's quite ridiculous, but quite amazing. Moving beyond Vardy into the next couple of years, this is where we see the rise of the new type of striker. It's the striker that has learned to play in between the lines, learned to link with the midfield, learned to link play. He's also now had to start running in behind again. And he's had to start tussling centre-backs and battling with people and occupying an entire defensive line. And possibly thanks to the evolution of sports science and dietary requirements, they also happen to be bigger and stronger and faster than ever before. And yet, that leads us to Erling Haaland, and it leads us to Victor Osimhen too, and Randal Kolo Muani. In fact, there's quite a lot of them in football right now. It's the complete striker. They're huge, they're fast, they're physical, they've got great touch, and they know how to link with the midfielder. They can do like 4 different things all at once, and they are genuinely great players. So the final thought is this. We often balk at the transfer fees associated with players like this. We hear £100 million for Randall Colomwani, £100 million plus for Victor Osimhen. Goodness me, that's a lot of money. But when you really think about it, and you really think about all the things they can do and all the things they've learned to do for the team, playing 2 or 3 different roles in one, is it any surprise that they're associated with these massive price tags? Arguably, they deserve it.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.